Hey, you like alcohol, don't you? Uh, I bet you do. Prohibition, speakeasies, saloon smashing, swing dancing, and gang violence. What's the number one pastime of all Americans whose blood runs red, white, and blue? Alcoholism, obviously. Because why would they go home and help take care of their family? Men do manly things, like drink themselves to death. There were many Protestants and women who believed that alcohol was the root of all of their problems, the source of all ill behavior, like addiction and violence, and maybe a little bit of political corruption, but that's not important. So they got up and started protesting, but there was more than plenty of resistance towards the movements. Among the protesters was this sweet old lady, Carrie Nation. Carrie was a single mother whose family was torn apart by alcohol. Her husband was a raging drunk and died due to his alcohol addiction. And so this led her to have to work like a dog just to support her kids. But on to her protesting, she would go to saloons, and just as everyone would expect from sweet old Carrie Nation, she took a hatchet and a bag of rocks and smashed the saloons to pieces. She was put in jail multiple times, but let off on the promise that she'd be good, and immediately she went back to saloon smashing. She was so well known that many saloons would go as far as to put up signs that said, "All nations welcome, except Carrie." But anyway, back to the boring protests. The most common method of protesting was to gather in front of saloons and bars and just pray. Remember, most of the protesters were Protestants. Many protesters were threatened and menaced in an attempt to end the push for dry laws. Dry laws being laws that attempt to outlaw alcohol. Blah blah blah, more protesting, and boom, 18th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. No more drinking. Legally, but to be honest, that didn't stop anyone. Enter speakeasies, essentially secret bars where they had illegal alcohol, dancing, music, and women with their ankles showing. Oh, how scandalous. How did speakeasies get their alcohol, I don't hear you asking? Well, it was the wondrous work of bootleggers. Bootleggers were people who smuggled alcohol, commonly in their boots. Some didn't even hide it, just bribed officials with sweet smuggler's money. Many of these bootleggers were in gangs, or even the mafia. Welcome to Brooklyn, New York. See that baby right there? Yeah, that guy's gonna become the most famous mobster ever. Yeah, I'm only half kidding. This is a random baby, but anyway, onto the real gangster. Al Capone. Born Alphonse Capone, he was born and raised in New York and worked a variety of odd jobs. Candy store clerk, pinboy at a bowling alley, ammunition plant laborer, and a cutter at a bookbindery, and ended up serving two, quote, kid gangs. Capone ended up joining the Five Points gang run by Johnny Torrio, the gentleman gangster who Al idolized. Capone had eventually moved to Chicago to guard a brothel for another crime boss. After that boss was eliminated, it made room for Torrio to move in and take over. After a few years of criminal activity, Torrio decided to retire and pass down the ownership of the gang to Capone. They specialized in mostly bootlegging and gambling. Capone ended up very wealthy and did a very good job keeping his public image pure and happy. He donated to charities, made good with government officials, bribing cops, and even opened a soup kitchen. But one day he ended up becoming public enemy number one, on accident. On Valentine's Day, his gang ended up staging a raid on rival crime lord Bugs Moran's gang, lining them up in a garage and opening fire. Capone reportedly had nothing to do with this massacre, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre as it would come to be known as. However, he would still end up taking all the blame for it, causing the government to finally zero in on all of his crimes. After many failed attempts to put him in jail, they finally got him on several counts of tax evasion and threw him in prison. Years later, he was let out of jail due to illness and died of a heart attack in Palm Island, Miami Beach, Florida. Many years went by in this economic depression that one may even call great, without any alcohol, and President Roosevelt got into office and he signed the Cullen-Harrison Act, amending the Volstead Acts, which had enforced prohibition on a federal level. And then finally, with the 21st Amendment to the United States Constitution, prohibition was no longer a thing. However, states could still enforce it as they wished, but it did not last very long. But on the bright side, as a result of that, now we know that when you make something illegal, you can't really properly manage it. And now we have restrictions and guidelines on alcohol, so now kids can't have it. Makes you think what else could be easier to regulate if we legalized it.